Hi everyone, welcome back to Monday Medz Health Nuggets. I'm your host, Tanisha Lawrence with Monday Medz Health and Wellness Ministry. So yes, as many of you know, we have been journeying through the Mind Your Mind series, and this seems like a never-ending series, but the reality is we have to take care of our minds. Everything that happens in our lives involve our minds, and that is why this series is super important, and I cannot stress it enough, the importance of us taking care of our mental health, taking care of our minds. What do we really need to do just after the hurricane? How to cope just after a natural disaster or a hurricane of such magnitude as Hurricane Melissa was. That's what we'll be focusing on today. How to cope and stay healthy after the passage of Hurricane Melissa or any natural disaster for that matter. Now, we did talk about how to purify water after a storm. And if you did not hear that or see that, I did share that we have it in a playlist in our natural disaster playlist or hurricane preparation playlist, but I will do a recap, and this feature also will take some bits and pieces from the What to Do When There's No Doctor series. If you have not seen any of our features from the What to Do When There's No Doctor, if you have not heard it, we had a very extensive series here on UVC Radio some time ago, months ago, probably almost a year ago. We were focusing on the what to do when there's no doctor. And so let us share some nuggets on how you can be safe, how you can stay healthy, how you can be healthy after a hurricane. First and foremost, how to purify water. So we did talk about 3 methods. We talked about the chlorinated method, we talked about the carbonated method, and we also talked about the boiling method. Now, many of us know the boiling method, that we should boil our water for at least 5 to 10 minutes. If you have I don't know how many of you do have a cast iron stovetop, that would help you. So if you boil your water and leave it on the stovetop overnight, which is cast iron, you do have additional benefits from boiling your water. When you boil it, I know many times if you're living in an area that has high chlorine in your tap water, you may notice that after boiling, there may be some white substances on top or on the base of your pot that you boil the water in. So you want to skim that top layer off, and you want to pour off the water and leave the sediment on the floor of the pot. You want to throw that out. And of course, you want to wash the pot very carefully before refilling it with water to boil again. And if you're cooking, you want to use the water that is already boiled, especially if you're cooking rice or something that you would not be pouring the water off or the liquid off. It is important that you use boiled or filtered water to cook with. That is already boiled water, that the top layer of that chlorination is poured out. As we talk about how to purify water after a hurricane, the best method of purifying water, especially after a hurricane, is the boiling method. And we cannot stress that enough. And I know that many individuals probably may not have the access to use their stove or to light wood fire, or they may not even have a pot to boil or a container to boil water. So these are the realities that we have to consider, especially after a major hurricane, as a Category 5 hurricane that hit Jamaica. We talk about filtration, and yes, if you have a filter jug or if you have charcoal, that's activated charcoal, you can filter your water. Now, if you do have the jug, that makes it easier for you to filter your water. However, some filters does not purify the water to get it safe, so you may need to boil it also. If you do have an activated charcoal filter, that's actually the best filter to use. You can also use activated charcoal, and we did share in a previous feature on how to do this. Just a reminder, you want to have the bottle with water already filled or the container with water already filled, and then you add a spoon or spoons of activated charcoal to that water. Now remember the method. You have the water sitting and then you add the activated charcoal. Do not do the opposite, or else the water can cause the activated charcoal to go flying, and that is a messy picture. Also, you can use the bleach method. Many of us know the bleach method. Bleach method or chlorination method using bleach. And again, you want to use bleach that is used for water treatment. Now you may be asking, how many drops of bleach? Now, first and foremost, you have to ensure that it is the unscented bleach that has 5 to 9% sodium hydrochloride. Make sure you read it. If you have household bleach, 5 to 9% sodium hydrochloride. For every gallon of water, use about 8 drops of bleach. Now, if you're using the 5-gallon bucket, you can safely use about half a teaspoon to purify a 5-gallon bucket of water. Now, if you need to do less than a gallon is about 4 liters. So if you need to do a liter, 1 to 2 drops of bleach to a liter bottle. And again, remember to shake it up or mix well and let it stand for at least 30 minutes. And like I said before, I recommend you wait at least 60 minutes if possible. You definitely want to read the label on the bottle of the bleach to ensure that it is safe for water purification. So if you need to have water right away to drink, the best way to get it is the boiling method, because the boiling method would be quicker. The problem is that the water would be hot and you would have to wait for it to cool. Now, if you do the charcoal method, you would need to wait until the charcoal is settled from the water. So that's another thing. So in each method, you would have to wait some time. And that's the bottom line. All right, so we talked about purifying water. The next thing we need to ensure that we keep our immune system up. We know that water is important and it has to be consumed safely. And that's one way to keep our bodies hydrated and clean or clear of viruses. As we talk about viruses, it is important to know what to do if you feel like you're getting a cold. And we did talk about the onion method, and I cannot talk about it enough because this actually works. So always try to have onions at home. And I know due to the hurricane and the fact that the breadbasket and other areas, so St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, which are 3 major parishes that provide us with fruits and vegetables in our markets, they were hardest hit. And so it is a challenge sometimes. It's a challenge in this time to get vegetables at a reasonable price. However, I encourage you to always ensure that you have onions, no matter how expensive they may be, even to have 2 or 3 onions at home, especially in this time. So you may say, what do I do with the onions? So if you feel like you're coming down with a cold, immediately cut an onion horizontally and use a half of that cut onion to rub your neck and nose. Very important. You can also leave this onion around the area of your bed, and this will help to absorb bacteria and even some viruses that may be lurking around. So we talk about purifying water, we talk about keeping your immune system up. The next nugget that we'll share with you is trying to get adequate rest. Now, I know many people have lost their roofs and even their beds, mattress, and what have you. So it may be so hard for you to find a place to lay your head to get adequate rest. But I would encourage you, try to sleep and rest as much as possible. This is vital for your body's health and also for your mind. And yes, if you're just joining us, we're talking about how you can be healthy and stay healthy after a hurricane. So yes, we've talked about purifying water, 3 ways of purifying water. We talked about how you can use the chlorination method using bleach. You can use the filtration method of using activated charcoal. And also we talked about the boiling method. We also talked about how you can use onions to keep your immune system up. And yes, the third nugget is to get adequate rest. And we'll leave you with this 4th method. I know it is overly depressing because we've been in some areas in St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Trelawney, and St. James, and we've seen quite a lot of scenery that most of the West Coast is a disaster zone. And so I know it must be so hard to see devastation all around you and feeling so helpless. But one of the things that I'll encourage you to do is to talk about what is on your mind. Talk about it with someone, whether it is your family who called you or family that's around or your community members. Talk about how these things are affecting you individually and even also as a group. And we know that talking through our problems and situations does help us to cope. And yes, that's one great way of minding your mind when you talk about those issues that are bothering you or affecting your life. Now, I know we could continue, we could go on and on with this, but we'll have to cut it here. We probably will do a part 2. I know at some point we will do a follow-up to this conversation, but I do want us to take care of ourselves and look out for others who are around us. It is so hard at this time to be selfish because we are all in this thing together. So those of you who may be out there and think that you are okay where you're living, you're fine, and you don't need to worry about those who are in the western part of the country, or you don't need to worry about those who are in Jamaica because it doesn't affect you directly. Remember, whatever happens to one happens to all because we are all part of this human family. As we wrap up Monday Medz Health Nuggets today, I am reminded of the Word of God, the exhortation from the Apostle Paul to the Philippians, those in Philippi. He said in Philippians 2 verse 4, let each of you not look on your own desires, but on the needs of others. It is my encouragement that we not just look about what we need to do for ourselves, but we take some time and look out for the needs of others. I pray that you will have a God-fearing day, everyone, and God be with you. See you soon.